welcome back to Massalia Tales. In the previous episode, we held off the Nervii at Vesontio, coming to a grinding conclusion in a battle that lasted for the entire time limit, just about holding the city and destroying their army. We counterattacked with the Cronius attacking their province to the north, destroying their local forces, and eventually, despite actually some heavy casualties, taking their lands. Meanwhile, to the east, Bendis was also pressing against the Nervii, storming one of their provincial capitals with ease. Far away, Cretheus was fighting Hyastan. They sallied out to fight him in the field with a low quality army, and he found it pretty easy to just crush them with a superior heavy force, mauling them with cavalry and dogs just to make it even easier. We started a new war against the city-state of Gerhaea, our client state who previously had declined to conquer. Bendis continued north to hunt for more Nervii targets near Rhegium, and Epaphroditos started heading away from the Hyastan front to go and fight Gerhaea, but has yet to engage. Finally, we saw the Daemons of Polemos attacked by the Saka Rauka. Their millions of archers and horse archers are taking to the field, and we're going to team up with Arche Bosphorus to fight them off. Although many Massalian cultural traditions stemmed from their early days, where Celtic influence was strong, in the era of the Timucoi there was little left of that history. For the common man, things were not all that different, with Celtic people still offered the same citizenship of Massalia that they had been hundreds of years prior. But never was a man of non-Greek ethnicity given authority over anything above a handful of households. The Massalian nobility believed that to be Massalian was something more than merely being Greek due to their cosmopolitan nature. But that tolerance ran only skin deep. The reality was that Massalia was forcing Greek gods and customs on all who came under her watch, the Celts included. We're taking to the battlefield to defend against a Saka Rauka attack on the Daemons of Polemos, who are sitting on this hill looking over the enemy's army, which is mostly horse archers with a scattering of foot archers and a few spearmen. They've got one army there and another one coming in as reinforcements. So I'm just sitting here with a heavy infantry line with archers behind. What I want to happen is for the enemy to fire uphill with all their arrows into my heavy infantry line. They'll take them on their shields and then I'll fire back with my own missile units. But we also have Arche Bosphorus coming in with a stack to support us, filing in on my left flank with a wide selection of heavy spears for the most part. A similar army to me, also not very appropriate for fighting the enemy's horse archer stack. Now I wanted Arche Bosphorus to come and just join me in the line and do the same thing as me, so we have a big united front, but they have other ideas. As you can see, the AI is just rushing their troops randomly forwards, including one unit rushing all the way to the back of the map. The enemy already falling back. There's pretty much no chance of Arche Bosphorus catching these units. They're just going to walk away and skirmish with these slow-moving heavy spears, but Arche Bosphorus are going to try it anyway, moving forward with their troops all bunched together, perfect for taking arrow fire from the enemy. They start their attack with these riders who are rushing out ahead of the army on their own, so they're going to rush into a massive blob of 10 to 20 horse archer units, and this isn't going to go terribly well. They have a chance of catching them, they're quite fast, but all the time they're moving, they're taking arrow fire. They've already lost more than half their men. That didn't go very well at all, and that's pretty much the same fate that will befall any unit that just runs into a huge armada of horse archers. So most of those guys are killed in their cavalry attack, although actually killing a couple of the enemy by catching some of them as they escape there. They don't really have any effect on the enemy's line, and they come right back, rushing up to get close to the Arche Bosphorus spears, ready to hit them with arrows. I'm still sitting at the back, just watching this engagement, waiting to see what happens. The Arche Bosphorus troops are relatively heavy, big shields, and a decent amount of armor, so they can take these arrows to start with. The arrows will only reduce their health, not kill them. Eventually, though, the sustained arrow fire will damage those units. They do have some ranged units of their own who are going to be their best bet against these horse archers, but unfortunately, because they're charging their infantry forwards, the horse archers will skirmish away and keep going out of range of their own missile units, meaning they're not going to be able to use them very effectively, and their infantry are just taking an absolute pounding, arrows flying down everywhere into their formation. The numbers not dropping fast to start with, but as I said, they're going to drop very fast once they've lost all of their health. There we go, they managed to catch one enemy into melee there with those lighter spear units, but still, not doing much yet, still not making contact with the enemy, and the Saka Rauka have actually made a cavalry attack with their melee cav to take out some of the missile units on their right flank. They're moving their general's cav to go and support that situation. Here's our Timios and his guards standing behind our line, just watching the massive mess going on down there as the Arche Bosphorus forces are getting totally corralled by the huge arc of horse archers surrounding them right now. Now we also have an attack on our lines to have a think about. It's a few units of horse archers coming up to fight our right flank. They're firing mostly at the swordsmen here, who are just standing here with their jabs and shields up. They're just about in range of javelins if I tell them to manually fire towards the enemy, so we can get a few shots off on them. I'm also going to move up the rest of my regular javelin troops to fight here as well. Basically, any foot missile unit can beat a horse archer unit in theory, so we're going to do some damage to them. We kill a couple of them with our swordsman's javelin. It's not really close enough to get a real big hit, but the other 3 units of jabs coming in are going to be more effective. We can hit the closer enemy unit with jabs. This is actually 2 units standing on top of each other, which is perfect, so we're going to get even more kills with the jabs, and we're going to drive them away via this method. Some of the enemy's units are actually fighting my line here. They've come up, probably chasing the enemy's general. Have ended up deciding they're going to come against the Daemons of Polemos, which is a bad idea. We've got our own archers behind the line who are now going to shower fire onto these medium spears. They're not going to make it to our line, especially going uphill. Meanwhile, the actual battle itself still very chaotic. The enemy's infantry now coming in to engage with the Arche Bosphorus infantry. That's going to go in the favour of our allies. And very usefully, they've still got their missile units alive. They managed to fend off the enemy's cavalry attacks. So those guys are going to be quite useful at taking out the enemy's horse archers when they're in range, but they're not going to be in range very much because they're still driving the horse archers away from the fight with these men. Not really catching them, and of course just losing troops every time the horse archers decide to fire back, so nothing good really going to come of that. With all due respect, sir, wait any longer and the men will believe you're conspiring with the enemy. You want me to attack, give up the high ground, fall into the same trap as the Bosphorans? Yes, we all want that. We all want to fight. We want the Bosphorans to bow down to us for saving them. Don't you see that the Daemons seek only victory in battle, and that to stand here and watch the fight from afar is to offend them? The Daemons need to learn that this war is not about them, but I will allow an attack, an orderly attack. At my signal, begin a slow march off the hill. As the enemy's attacks on my right flank begin to totally fail, I finally decide to advance my main position and move down the hill to get closer to the fight. Here you can see more of those medium spears. They've lost most of their men now, but they're still trying to fight, doing actually a nice rear attack on the Arche Bosphorus general. We of course are going to be able to fire into their rear with arrows to support them. That general's actually in trouble. He's really surrounded by the enemy spearmen. He's got some of his own infantry supporting, but they're not really clearing things up. So my archers kill all of the guys behind the Arche Bosphorus general, and that general can now escape from that melee, and he's going to rush all the way up the hill, barrel through my pike phalanx. Not that it hugely matters, he's disrupting my formation right there, and he's going to get himself into safety behind all of my troops. So we've saved their general, that's a good start, and my archers just wiping out some of the enemy's archers nearby, clearing the route for us to continue our advance. Of course, advancing from us isn't going to be massively effective because the enemy will just run away if we actually charge at the units doing the damage, which is the horse archers. But what I can do is advance quickly with the Celtic Cav. They can kill some of these routing guys as they go through, but the main target is to hunt down the enemy's slower units like foot archers, who we can just slam into and destroy. Although we can't do much damage against the horse archers, if we kill enough of their foot troops, the enemy's army morale will be low, making it easier to take out horse archers. You can see from the balance bar, we have a gigantic theoretical advantage in the battle, so the enemy's morale isn't going to be holding up too well. Now they make one horse archer attack, one extra horse archer attack on our line. It's just one unit and they're easily fended off. And at this point, the enemy army actually just chain routes the remaining horse archers. We didn't have to fight them, which is exactly what I wanted, so that went very well. It's a decisive victory for the combined forces of Arche Bosphorus and the Daemons of Polemos. Sort of lucky that we stepped in because Arche Bosphorus wasn't really doing very well against the Saka Rauka. But in the end, the enemy lost virtually everything in the rout phase. You can see all of their horse archers are dead. compared, we didn't really lose anything. Arche Bosphorus losing only one unit and then taking casualties among the others. So overall, that was a pretty good engagement. The enemy are going to be super weak now, so I can continue with my plan to try and sack the settlement. Now they also have one ship which for some reason decides to try and escape from the port. We've got 4 fleets blockading this port, so it's not exactly going to work. So I just auto-resolve and we kill them. Surprisingly, we actually can't kill them with 100% of our forces remaining, so they did some damage to us, killing 5 guys apparently. We're going to release the captives we took there. So now we see Illyrian Confederation forces rushing about in our territory. In theory, they're moving to attack the Nervii, but so far they've just been running about randomly. I think they keep changing their mind about what they're going to do. And then we see this little battle get started. Gerhaea is defending against a Hayastan garrison coming out of this small town. The army's really weak, but we can't get a good auto-resolve as usual, so I'm going to have to quickly fight it ourselves. Very similar to other battles we've seen, so we won't spend much time on this little slaughter. We can be pretty much guaranteed that the enemy are just going to walk into my formation, so all I need to do is put a pike wall out, so you can see I've done just that. We've got pelters behind and archers behind that, and behind those we've got a ballistae who are going to be able to hit the enemy even before they arrive. So the enemy just going to come in. They have 1 cavalry unit which we're going to quickly defeat using my own shock cav, just running them through. It was only a light cavalry unit, so even shock cav can just destroy them instantly. So with them gone, we're going to gain complete cavalry advantage over the battlefield, which is exactly what we need to end this very quickly. More cavalry coming in from the other side to wipe out their archers. They're not going to stick around to fight with my cav, so we'll get rid of those guys. They won't be able to fight into my phalanx, and we'll be able to hit the enemy in the rear. Their infantry trying to push through the pike phalanx, of course, but that's not going to do a single thing, so don't have to worry about that. So once everyone's together, we can just hit these guys fighting the phalanx from behind with all my cavalry. That's going to totally wipe them out. A lot of these guys are just medium spears, low morale, not going to fight when receiving a rear charge. They just get out of there, and you can see a chain rout quickly ensues after I do that. You can see my war dogs hunting the enemy's general there right at the end. So that was easy. Decisive victory. The balance bar said we were going to lose half our men in that battle, but somehow I don't think that's quite the case. Hayastan still not learning their lesson about how powerful we really are. So we actually lost about 50 men, the enemy losing nearly 2,000. That's much more like it. We're going to enslave some captives, and of course that settlement's very likely to become ours now. And now we see Hayastan forces all over the place. Hayastan have a lot of armies. They have probably 10 stacks around the place. They're just spread out over their large empire, but it seems they might now all be coming together to attack me, so we might be facing some serious attacks soon. The Gallic Confederation ended their alliance with me. I don't know what this means, but because they're allied to the Nervii, that's almost certainly the cause. They don't like the fact I'm conquering Nervii lands. We don't know if anything's going to come of that. We'll have to just watch them carefully. And now we get a message that my 2 client states, the Carnutes and the Iceni, are going to war. The Carnutes attacking the Iceni. Now the Carnutes have been attacking people quite a lot, and they've been attacking my client states quite a lot, or at least they've been at war with my client states often. So I was thinking maybe I'll just cut the Carnutes off at some point to stop this from happening and just take their lands. Right now I'm going to stay out of the war, which will mean I think Iceni are no longer my client state, but they're almost definitely not going to get conquered by the Carnutes, so I'll bring them into the fold once again and perhaps deal with the Carnutes once I've got some men together. But before all of that, we have a naval battle. The Gerhaea come out of their port, first with an army and then with a fleet. An interesting choice to lead with the army, because this means I'm going to be able to attack their transport ships before their fleet arrives, and because of this I'm going to give this battle a go and see if we can take out these military units by sacrificing my relatively unuseful naval units in battle if needs be. So down on the seas, I just took the default formation and told them to sail right into the enemy's fleet. And actually, having these 2 rows of boats like this, I think it's not really a good idea, and you'll see in a moment, because it causes a lot of chaos in terms of just getting everyone where they need to be. The enemy's navy is coming in at the side of the map there. We're going to try and just rush these transports before that navy arrives, because transports, although quite big, are usually weak. You can usually bring them down with a couple of ramming actions. So we're going to try and destroy as many military units as we can. On the way I spotted this weird abomination in the sea. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I think it's some of the enemy crew have teleported into a blog. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, my fire ships are the first to hit the enemy, and you can see the fire pots immediately destroy the enemy's boats, and the ramming action sinks them just for good measure. So we've got rid of 2 enemy units right there, a good start. Along the rest of the line, it's just a chaotic mess of ships both trying to ram and board each other. Here you can see an enemy transport successfully boarding with my general ship. We're going to win that fight in melee though. Here, another boarding action. It's some enemy cavalry who've jumped in to fight with my swordsman. Quite happy to let that happen as well. My swordsman should beat them. On the flanks, I've got javelin ships throwing jabs at the enemy, and the ones on my left flank are going to receive the enemy's navy, and I'm going to try and just delay the enemies to give myself more time to kill transports. Unfortunately, the enemy can totally micro their ships to just ram me all the time. And these ships are only small, they go down right away when they're getting rammed. Not very good. We have managed to take down one of the enemy's naval vessels, but we're going to lose 3 of our own over there. Back in the main fight, we're just sort of struggling to get our ships moving. A lot of them are locked in position by boarding actions, or the fact they're just surrounded by other ships. Even sinking ships provide a blockage for a while. These enemy transports, for some reason, taking fire damage from something or other. I think it's the towers on my general's ship. So we're burning a lot of enemy ships, which means their boarding actions automatically fail. Look at this, you can see 5 ships all sort of stuck together. We need to get them around these burning enemy ships so they can find more targets to hit. More boarding actions going on here, and unfortunately our rams don't actually destroy the enemy's transports in one hit. It takes 2 hits, and it's immensely difficult to get the second hit in once you've done once, because you have to go backwards and forwards again, and there's just too much mess on the battlefield to achieve it, so we're kind of struggling to take down these easy targets.
Why aren't we moving? The drums are beating. Where is my speed? What? The oars are smashed already? Damn. We shouldn't have been so hasty to get into their lines. Now it's enemy hull in all directions, and whatever's left of our oars is floating back there somewhere. Hang on. What is that?
Where, sir?
Out there in the debris. It's a monster! A creature with 100 spiked tentacles come up from the deep to claim the lives of floundering sailors. Poseidon is here to punish us for our foolishness. All hands! Abandon ship! Swim for land! Swim for the enemy if you must! Do not let that thing get you, or you will spend an eternity in its icy grip.
The mess continues with ships going all over the place. I'm basically trying to micro each of my ships, trying to give them all new targets all the time to make sure they do things, because if their first ram fails, they will not try another until you actually tell them to ram again. You can see the ram doing 99% damage to these enemy ships, which is really disappointing. If it just did 100%, we would be in a really different position right now. The firepots, of course, can destroy ships in one hit, but my firepots are being sunk and boarded by the enemy. That ramming action does 0 damage. Don't know what was up with that. I think I might have been the victim of a glitch or something, and now the enemy just destroyed the crew with point blank range missile fire. Not good at all. You can see from the balance bar the enemy has a gigantic advantage. Even though the balance bar back on the campaign map was about even, it actually very rapidly went in the enemy's favor now that we're down on the seas. So I'm trying to get my last remaining ships to actually get some ramming going, to try and just take down a few more enemy ships before this is over. The Abomination is still going wild out there in the sea, cheering on its own men who are just drowning behind it. As you can see, that transport sinking. I think my tower ship in the center has set fire to a lot of enemy ships, which has been very good. There, another ship on fire. The crew actually just starting a boarding action, so they're escaping from the fire onto my boat, but the second their ship sinks, they'll just jump overboard, because naval crews don't have too much sense in this game. So the enemy has all of my boats pretty much surrounded. We can't really ram anything else because we just can't move for enemy ships, and the remaining ships chain route, ending the battle in a close defeat. You could even say it was worse than a close defeat. We lost pretty much our entire navy. We did destroy some of the enemy's land army, but overall their force is in much better shape after that. In terms of numbers, the battle results actually look quite good for us, because although we lost lots of ships, the ships the enemy were losing were transports, which generally have 2 to 3 times the amount of men on them. So we did destroy a lot of enemy manpower, but we've lost our fleet. It's not the end of the world, of course, because that fleet probably wasn't really going to do anything, so not having it doesn't really change our plans. Now, Gerhaea make an attack that I didn't expect. One of their stacks comes all the way down to attack Mascat in one turn. I didn't think they'd be able to get this far, but fortunately our garrison's quite suited to fighting this enemy army. It's mostly cavalry, all melee cav, meaning that our mostly spears garrison is going to have an advantage over it, and we have an advantage on the balance bar. The auto-resolve possibilities are all quite bad, big losses at the least, but I decided to go with it because I don't foresee the garrison here having to fight again in the near future. We get an okay result, only killing a few more of the enemy than we lost, but we are going to replenish over the end turn sequence and they are not, so that's something in our favour. Now reaching the end of that end turn sequence, we've got some captures to deal with. First, we've got the Saka Rauka capital. I don't want to occupy it because I'm still hoping that Arche Bosphorus might take it. And with there's so many forces nearby, there's a real chance we might be able to actually get them to do it this time. So the options I'm looking into are sacking or razing. It seems that sacking is the superior option. Razing just destroys everything. Sacking damages everything, but has the critical advantage of giving you a load of money, while razing doesn't give you anything. So I'm not sure why that's useful. So we're going to go with sacking. That's going to give a ton of cash and leave the enemy pretty weak. Gerhaea also has a settlement to occupy for himself, nice and easy. We've got slums coming up over in Impera, right over in Impera, and still a high chance of civil war. Occasionally get these slums if you forget to build things after having destroyed stuff. I think I'm just repurposing my western provinces to be more economically useful, since I'm unlikely to recruit things there right now. So back over in Mascat, I'm just checking the garrison. I think we have an advantage over the enemy's army, so if they attack again, we'll probably be able to win an auto-resolve once again. Now I spotted here at Gerhaea, the enemy's army actually stayed at sea after that naval battle, and it's not in range of the city. So I'm going to come in and see what the odds look like on an attack, and they actually look pretty bad. The enemy has tons of upgraded garrison units inside, a full stack garrison with experience, plus the navy inside will take part in the battle as well, meaning it's difficult for us. I am still going to stay and construct siege equipment just to see what the enemy do here. We can always leave if their army comes back and it looks dangerous. Now for Gerhaea, he can make use of some newly captured manufacturing capabilities to upgrade his army's equipment, which is always handy, but he can't actually move right now because he captured that settlement right in this turn. Technically, he's used up all his movement points doing that capture. So we can't react to the fact that Hayastan have armies all over the place, and they seem to be going generally westward, and they're going to bypass Gerhaea by the looks of it. Some forces coming down towards that walled city, not going to be a huge deal because they'll get stuck there, but they do also have a full stack coming into Mesopotamia, where we have these undefended towns, and they could make some decisive attacks here. It's almost too easy. Their army sails out and gets half their ships fired, and the rest are apparently just lost at sea. So all they're going to have left in the city is their oarsmen. Do we have spears longer than oars? Even if we don't, they have to be sharper, don't they? Probably doesn't matter. They'll sail away when we approach, too scared to face us. We'll gather all the wood we can on the way and construct some siege machines to bypass their fortifications. Once we're inside the city, the chaos and panic will win the rest of the battle for us. And then, when the enemy army eventually finds its way back, we'll have the docks lined with onagers and bombard them with burning oil. I can see how Gerhaea does all this. It's actually quite simple. Taking a look at the remaining Saka Rauka forces, there's basically nothing in there, so really hoping Arche Bosphorus will finish them off now. It's still our war coordination target, so they should be trying to take it, but I'm not really sure that they are. Anyway, we're going to move the Daemons of Polemos way over to the east now, quite a long march for them to reach the northern end of the Hayastan Empire to see if they can strike some targets there to help us out in this war. We've also got Evios with his fleet to do something with, and I thought what we could do is move him down towards Trapezoros, because if it's undefended, he could storm in there and liberate our former client state Trapezoros, recreating the Greek city-state there, which would be a nice blow in this war, since that's the whole reason we started this war, to support Trapezoros. So now jumping back over to Europe, here's the Gallic Confederation, the guys who just ended their alliance with us, so we need to keep an eye on them. And here are the Carnutes, the guys who keep starting wars among our client states, and I'm considering just snuffing them out. And so in order to do that, I'm going to bring down Heraclides from his garrison on the Iceni border to come and board the ships down in Iska. From there he'll be able to make a short voyage across to land in Carnute land. It's going to be a couple of turns before any operations are ready though, so right now we're going to see how things go. The Carnutes haven't moved any forces out, so their war against the Iceni is apparently just a bluff. They're not actually going to do anything, although I guess we'll see. Maybe they will move out, but so far they haven't actually persecuted any of the wars they've tried to do. Now, Bendis has two Nervii stacks behind him, so he has to deal with this. We did have the Cimbri behind as our ally. They were wiped out by the Nervii, so now The Nervii have a chance to attack this walled settlement. The garrison inside isn't at full strength, but I thought if the enemy attacked right now, because they would only have 4 ladders for not having built any more, then there's a good chance we can take out those ladders, and even if 1 or 2 reach the walls, the enemy will have major choke points to overcome. So I thought what I'm going to do is risk the settlement and have Bendis continue on with this mission to attack Rugion. Inside there's not much, so he can get a very good auto-resolve and just take all those guys out. So with them gone, I need to make a decision, and I was thinking this time it might actually be very beneficial to do a liberation, creating a new ally for ourselves right here, which will create new forces in the area, and perhaps most importantly, it doesn't count as an occupation or anything, so Bendis can still move after this, giving us more options. So the Rugii are created with a half stack of troops there at Rugion, and Bendis, as you can see, could go and attack the Nervii right now, but really we want to find a way to get their 2 stacks apart from each other before we attack, so we don't have to fight them both at once. So what I'm going to do is first just have Bendis move down and fortify near the enemy here. If they do both attack me and we can't escape, it's not the end of the world because we'll have fortifications to help. But I'm going to try and get support from the Rugii. I'm going to have them join our war against Nervii, and I'm going to have to pay them to make them do it. They strangely didn't increase their chance of taking it, even when I basically doubled the amount of money. So I'm going to throw about 30 grand into this, a pretty expensive buy-in, but you'll see it's going to come in useful. Now we're just going to wait and see what the Nervii do. We do have reinforcements from Eusticus coming in very slowly, so if we can just avoid combat for a while, things will get better. I've also got Acronius down here, and I'm thinking with him, I'm going to move him west slightly, because that'll put him in a position to attack either the Gallic Confederation or the Carnutes if we happen to need to do either of those. And he's going to wait a couple of turns and just see what happens, and of course waiting for Heracles to arrive before we make any decisive strikes. We're going to see how the moods change. Now as we move on, those 2 Nervii armies do just attack Bendis in his fortifications nearby. There's a chance we could actually win this battle, but I thought we might as well try and be strategic here and run away to see if we can get those 2 stacks to split up. And now comes the important part. The more healthy stack goes to attack Rugion, linking up with the fleet. They capture it, losing all of their movement points, meaning only 1 stack is left to attack Bendis. So all of that turned out quite well. I basically paid 30 grand to only face 1 of these stacks at a time. That's effectively what we did there. So hopefully we can win this battle with so many forces left that we can then go and defeat the other stack, take Rugion for ourselves, and in the end everything will have gone Bendis' way. We'll see how it goes in the next episode. Massalia's enforced peace in Gaul was rapidly crumbling. The old rivalries between tribes, and the bitterness at the ease with which their parent state was attacking the Nervii, contributed to the Massalians losing their authority over numerous peoples. The Iceni had lost their client status. The Gallic Confederation, the shadow of an old enemy, had ended military cooperation, and the ever-belligerent Carnutes were now under intense scrutiny from the Timucoi, being searched for a reason to take their lands for good. Heracles of the Timucoi and Acronius of the Council both converged on Gaul with large armies, making a battle to resolve the tensions of the region seem almost inevitable.